So, what it is in terms of methodology is there are 2 or 3 phases. In this case, it was 2 phases of research, of data collection. The first explorative phase 1, you start with a qualitative data collection process plus a pilot. So there is a pilot. Piloto. Pilotear. Piloto. So it starts with the social capital framework, the one which I showed, which is in the center, social capital, and then it says network, sense of belonging, trust.
The main concepts of the literature.
Yeah. So I go back. I think it's here. It's a bit like that. Here, this social capital: outlook in life, being valued, power, networks, trust, safety, sense of belonging, reciprocity, participation. Now, these are the
you came to this concept through
literature review, and this is where Leida's adaptive theory comes in. I talked yesterday about critical realism, and Leida talks about adaptive theory. So you use theory to inform your work. It's not like grounded theory that you don't use any theory. In adaptive theory, you use a bit of theory, but then you explore that theory in your inquiry. So what happens? I with children and young people in a focus group, I said, okay, who do you trust? What means trust me? And sometimes we did little exercises like draw a long line on the wall, and then put not at all trusting, lots of trust, and in the middle nothing. And then I gave them post-its and say, write down people and put where they are located in the trust. In that. So so parents would be lots of trust. Then it would say a robber or a burglar, no trust at all, and then they would put. So
you connect words or concept with trust through they connect.
They tell me.
You offer.
So what means what means trust to you? Who do you trust? Who don't you trust? So I ask,
trust is play a game.
Or what? Exactly.
For example.
Or networks, I say, with whom do you hang out? It's localism. And I said, I hung out with my friends. So who are your friends? Where do you meet your friends? And then I explore and try to find out in that qualitative data, how do they construct their reality? What is important? What is not important? What means networks? What means trust to them? And I said, so when you think about trust, what comes into mind? Chilling out, or telling other people what really bothers me, and then you ask, so you're telling about your mother, so why do you trust your mother? And then they come up with what I sort of showed, also the qualitative data. So the first is that you make an inquiry about trying to find out with focus groups. The pilot was really to shortly explore with groups of people if it would make sense. The pilot is when I ask them these questions, do they understand the questions? Will it work? And then once it worked, I take out, but I don't have, in this case, I didn't have a questionnaire. I explored it. This is why in my thesis I say, these are not focus groups, these are discussion groups. Because for me it was a really open exploration of concepts. And it produced a huge amount of data. Qualitative data. So I go back.
How did you select the people?
They have to be representative? No, it was No, it's a sample. I have here my sampling strategy, which is part in my thesis also. It was not a probabilistic sampling. So it was the criteria is a quite strict criteria. I show you.
Quota?
No, because it's nothing to do with quantitative. It's very different to quantitative sampling. Let's open that one. Takes a while because it's big. Oh, my computer is starting to.
Your dissertation, thesis.
So obviously I consider bias in the sampling.
Okay.
So you combine in mixed methods. Obviously, there's two different samples. It's for the quantitative and for the qualitative part of the inquiry. So I chose a non-probability sampling or purposeful purposive sample, and you set the units because it has specific purpose. Yeah. Now, the questions which are asked is: are there groups which are critical for this research? Are there groups
to select the people?
Yeah. Are there groups which can provide important information that cannot be obtained as well from other choices? And are there any groups which can be compared? So, for example, I am not this study. The purpose is not to generalize. The purpose is to add to an understanding of a concept and to disentangle it further. So I'm not saying all young people in the UK are like that. What I'm saying is, within the concept of social capital, I have found that yes, in this group, this concept can be applied, but this other concept can't be applied. Yeah? And therefore I'm contributing to the conceptual development and the complexity, rather than saying, so it's all about the concept of social capital. My study is not, it is about some young people, but I'm not saying young people in the UK are like it. And I think this is where sometimes I get in people, when they are youth, where they come from youth studies background, says, but you can't generalize. I said, I'm not generalizing. I'm disentangling social capital. I'm not saying young people are like that. I'm saying the social capital of young people, of that specific group, has these kind of characteristics, and that contributes to the theorization of social capital, but not necessarily to the theorization of young people, which it does, but in a different way. And I think sometimes this is where it gets complicated, because people who listen to it will think that it's about young people.
Yeah.
And it's not, and you will find that. So it is from the Midlands area, and it was, and I argue that was part of a big project which was funded and was wanted to look into young offenders, and therefore pathways of young offenders. So therefore one group was already established, but then to contrast it, I chose the grammar school, which is a private school, because it's highly likely that in this sample there are no offenders and they come from privileged positions. And what was interesting is this where also I constantly could the biggest difference were between these two groups
To compare.
yeah, to compare. And that was, and at the end I discarded some of the others because that was something, because especially when you analyze class or when you analyze privilege, you need to be very careful in your selection of participants. So bits were then when I contacted a lot of organizations within the Midlands, and to be honest I expected more schools to be part of it, but was very difficult. So at the end I only had a college and a school. But you know, the sample, if you look for a PhD study, was very big. 17 discussion groups with 60 young people. Sorry, with 17 discussion groups, 16 in-depth interviews, and and the discussion group was 60 young people from youth groups.
60
young people.
young people.
Yeah, from youth groups. Then 16 in-depth interviews with 14 young people, so a couple of them were repeated. Yeah, I did 2. The survey was 89 young people from offending, 228 from a college and school, and 183 from youth organizations, which makes it was it about 500. The sample of the survey is 500.
Your assumption was that the youth organization, the people of youth organizations are engaged in social projects.
No, it was a group of young people who accessed youth groups, and therefore their social capital might be influenced by being part of youth groups.
Okay.
So back to this here, then so this is the first part. Is ethics, because ethics is really important also. But let's do that.
Of course.
So after this first exploration, you have the qualitative data. So the 17 focus groups plus the interviews, which were how many? I always forget. 16.
14 people.
Yeah, 14 people.
Interviewed.
Yeah. That is analyzed.
Then you have this qualitative data.
Will be analyzed.
Okay.
In a more broad way. This data, I analyzed it using the social capital framework. So I organized it. This is about networks, this is about trust, so instead, because sometimes when you have focus groups, you can analyze it with free notes, and free notes is every single thing you analyze it. Yeah. In this here, because I have already a framework, I put it into pre-established framework, which makes it easier. Because obviously, being such a big study, you need to start to think, okay, what?
Okay.
In this, I then also involve young people. In this study, I didn't involve the young people in the questionnaires. In another study, which I have done around volunteering and social capital, the young people were involved from the start of the project. Yeah, and then it is analyzed this, and then.
But you analyze with the young people, or you?
Yeah, I analyze it and then I present it. They look at it and say, no, we need to change this.
And you make better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is the way.
Because
So you have a meeting with the people.
we have meetings.
They comment.
Yes, they comment. They read because I can print out. So all this is what I did is once I put everything is about trust.
Okay.
Yeah, I showed to them. I said, who wants to look at trust? Somebody says, I want to read around trust. So I said, here's everything. Read what comes out. Now tell me what comes out, what springs to your mind, what ideas come to mind. And when they say these ideas, then if you think you have now in your box trust, you make subfolders. And you make the subfolders by reflecting on what young people have told you. Yeah?
Okay.
So you say, okay, they told me. And then you go yourself and read it and says, oh, I can see this, I can see that. And then you say, okay, now you make the subfolders and say, okay, this is now what comes out in this subfolder. What do you think about it? Yeah. Do everything what says here, does it refer, or do you think it's odd, or is it different, or does it say something? And then some people, when I did the work with young people around volunteering, they said, oh Thilo, trust always comes up, but also being trusted comes up. And the other thing which comes out, trust comes related so often with an adult. And we find that is really important. So what you can do in the NVivo, you can see whether really, when you code trust and you code adults, whether there are overlaps or whether they come close in the interview. There is a way to see what comes close, what overlaps, a bit like the Boolean analysis.
Yeah. Okay.
So in this here,
it's a kind of validation.
yes, yeah.
What did you do?
Then you say here there's an existing theory and research, and you develop your research questions for the survey. And the survey will have an element of quantitative data collection and an element of qualitative data collection, open-ended.
Okay.
And I show you.
I can show you my questionnaires. Maybe it could be useful for you.
Yeah.
I produce many with open questions.
Yeah, I show you what. So, for example, here this is our information leaflet.
Okay.
This is the consent form. And then here's the questionnaire.
Okay.
What is your gender? Are you disabled? So the first age, ethnicity, with whom do you live? Where do you live? And I'm at school, college, or whatever. Then in the last week, most of my free time I spent hanging around on the street, friends' house, other school activities, at home, youth groups, others. Yeah, this comes from what the young people have said. Yeah, and then the people I spend my free time with are friends, brother, and they could write it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have met most of my friends through the school, through youth groups, and they could mark as many as they wanted.
And a mix.
Yeah, what do you do with your family mates? Now, for example, this was a very interesting question. So how important was school for you? Here, I think being at school was exciting, boring, just a laugh, hard work, confusing. And it's very interesting how the combination came back. People who had difficult experience but thought it was okay, or people who had difficult experience and it was bad. And that was the young offenders. Had also very bad. So you might have a difficult experience but still it's okay, but you have a difficult and it is really bad, and that was very, very interesting. what do you think where you live? And then there are questions around trust. Trust means people do not tell others what I have told them. People do not stab me in the back, sticking up for each other, and being able to tell somebody what really bothers me, feeling comfortable with somebody. What comes out from here, and these were the phrases young people sort of analyzed, and that there was a group where it was sticking up for each other and not being stabbed in the back. Stabbed in the back is somebody betraying you. And that was that kind of protective trust. And certain groups had more that identified more that type of trust. So that was interesting to use this. In terms of outlook on life, that is what I quantified, which was very hard work. Yeah, people who trust me are. People who don't trust me are. Is there any other person that all this had to be, I'm good at, I enjoy, I would like to be, my aim is. So for example, I took all the answers from here, wrote them down, and then because the two big groups which I had, the young offenders and the grammar school, I took their replies and contrasted what are the differences between the two. And it was very, very interesting. It was about the outlook, and young people from the grammar school, that was all very related. I'm good at, I enjoy, I would like to be, my aim is. They really knew it, and it was very related. The young offender said, I'm good at football, I enjoy nothing, I would like to be a millionaire, and my aim is to be a millionaire. Or in prison. So that comes out of this here. Of this study here comes out this questionnaire. Now this phase was about collecting then the data. So you had in the survey, you had the quantitative data and the qualitative data. Why do I write this in quan, in big, and this in small? Because in mixed methods research, the predominant data collection tool is written in a capital letter, and the secondary data collection tool is written in small. So you come up with quantitative results, and you are coming out with qualitative results. These qualitative results were transformed into quantitative.
You code information.
I took the survey,
in numbers.
put it all into NVivo.
For that is NVivo.
So I took out. No, the NVivo is also for this here. This is NVivo.
For the first.
For the first is NVivo. And for the qualitative data of the survey is also NVivo. So you end up with 500 accounts of young people. Qualitative accounts, and you have to code them. But because they are small sentences, it's very easy. And then when you code them, you might come up, okay, I have 3 types here. I have 500 accounts, but actually this group of young people is coded like broad outlook on life. These about a narrow outlook in life. And NVivo tells you also, obviously, then which questionnaire belongs, which person belongs to that broad, and which person belongs to the other. And then I went back, and apparently in NVivo, and I don't know yet, you could actually have your survey in the NVivo also, and then
you introduced the information.
You could. But I couldn't do that. I don't know how to do it.
I don't know.
No, so I went back to the survey and I coded myself, I allocated numbers.
Okay.
So I wrote a number, and according to what I analyzed in the qualitative data, I said small radius of trust or big radius of trust, for example. And 1 to 1 to 1 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that will link with NVivo?
And no, that doesn't link in NVivo, but here I think NVivo can do that. I would now need to go to a new training of NVivo to see what are the latest things, because it has changed. When I did this, it wasn't able. They say now they have integrated somehow.
Okay.
But obviously, so what did I do? I compared here, I validated quantitative results with qualitative results, and I compared and interrelate two quantitative data sets. So I use that quantitative data set plus the new quantitative data set, and I analyze it. Yeah? The next thing is...
There are overlaps or...
Yes. Sometimes it was confirmed, sometimes it just added elements, more insights. Yeah, and sometimes then with the cluster analysis, they all belonged to one cluster. Yeah, in SPSS, I did the cluster analysis.
Can you explain me with examples?
Yeah, I have it. I have it here. So then I interpret the quantitative and qualitative data. So, and I draw again on the first data set, which, bear in mind here, it was analyzed quite broadly. Yeah? So I introduce it here and analyze it even more in detail with certain aspects. So, because of I have data which I haven't analyzed. You make a choice there. Which data now do you go even further into depth? And you compare it with your findings here. And then you make the meta inference. And I will give you an example. Yeah?
Only one question. You came back to this step and you worked with the people, with the same people, with the sample?
No, I just took the information. I didn't work anymore.
Okay.
The findings from here, the transcript, I compare it with what has been finding here.
This with this?
Yeah.
No. But this is in this?
No, it's not.
Not?
No. This informed this in my categories.
Okay.
But then the insight of this insights here are contrasted with then in-depth analysis of that.
Okay.
Yeah. In another piece of work, what we did is after this stage, I have another step of data collection. So I take all these findings and I do more focus groups to ask very specific questions which relate to these findings, to understand more. This is about understanding more the levels, going into more depth, to find out, and then you do. But that is huge work.
That is a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Again.
So if I show you an example. Do you want to see the analysis bit? Let's go back to this analysis, because I have an example analyzing trust. you need a flip